Hello, everyone. This is Jasmine Jackson, founder and executive director of the Accelerated Training Program. We're a newer nonprofit that started in 2022. We're focused on digital and educational equity for underserved groups. And with that, what that means is we have a focus in cybersecurity education. So, exposing underrepresented, underserved groups in cybersecurity education. We're currently in the K through 12 space, but are looking to expand into the collegiate and apprenticeship space down the line. If you would like to know more about our organization, visit our website at www.t-atp.org. We also have our one pager at this link here. And if you would like to donate, click the donate button. Thank you so much for listening to our short PSA, and the video will be starting shortly. Have a good day. Welcome to another Ponent Fridays. In this video, we're going to solve Ignite from TryHackMe. So, a new startup has a few issues with their web server. Let's start the attack box. Let's start the machine. Okay, so we need to find user.txt and root.txt. Okay, so the machine of the box 10, 10, 45, 145, and our IP for TryHackMe 10, 10, 111, 5. So both of those are going to be important for this room, and I'll get to that. Get to that as soon as possible. Okay. So we need to find the user.txt and root.txt. What do we do first? First, we need to see what services are open on this machine. And the way we're going to do that is use Nmap or Network Mapper. And we see there's one port, 80. Okay. One port right now. Let's see if it's okay. So it's just one port. One port, port 80, which is HTTP. Okay. Now we know we have HTTP. What should we do next? We should try to find hidden directories and hidden files. How we're going to do that? We can use dirb and pass in the IP for the machine. So in my case, it'll be 10, 10, 45, 145. Okay. So we see here uh, robots.txt. So let's go there. And then I'll explain what robots.txt is and why it can be beneficial for us. Okay. So HTTP, HTTP 45, 145 robots. If I can spell. Okay. So we went to the robots.txt file and we see this disallow fuel directory. Why is robots.txt important? Robots.txt is a file that tells search engines, Google, Bing, and the others, and tell them, hey, when you are indexing, do not include these directories or do not include these files. What does that mean? So if we do a search for, let's just say this was a shoe store, right? Shoes.com, and we want the directory Louboutins to be disallowed. What does that mean? That means all the other directories and files on shoes.com will be searchable or indexable except for Louboutins because that is disallowed. In our case, the fuel directory is disallowed. So let's see if we can actually go to this directory. And we can. Okay, so it points us to a login. Fuel CMS. So this is a content management system using the Fuel theme, okay, or Fuel software. So now let's just go to the IP of 10.10.45.145 and see what we get. Okay. Welcome to Fuel CMS version 1.4. That's going to be important. Okay. I didn't want that. Let me close that. My bad. Okay. So this actually looks like this is a config page. So, word to the wise, when you're installing software, pages like this should be removed because this is literally giving the keys to the kingdom. So, for instance, okay, installing the database. Okay, install the Fuel CMS database by first creating the database in MySQL and then importing this file, fuelschema.sql. After creating the database, change the database configuration found in Fuel application config databases.php to include your host, username, password in the database to match the new password you created. So this is very important because this Fuel application config database.php is probably going to hold a username and password that we're going to need later. Okay, so I was saying that this version 1.4 is important. Why is that? So let's go to Google and see Fuel CMS 1.4 exploit. Okay. So we see here exploit DBID 50477, and we see this is actually the exploit, and this is written in Python 3. Good, because the attack box uses Python 3. So now, how are we going to look for it? Well, we're going to say search exploit -p because we want the path of 50477. Okay, it couldn't find it. Huh. Okay, so it's not there. What can we do? Well, we could download it. And I should make a note. So when you are doing capture the flags, or if you have written permission to do a penetration test, you should be doing all of these things in a virtual machine. You should not be doing this on your actual operating system that you have personal identifiable information and things of that nature. All of these things should be done in a virtual machine because these exploits from Exploit DB, you're using them at your own risk. So, for instance, it could say, hey, this is a remote code execution, which is pretty much allowing us to enter commands from a server, but it could really be stealing your information. So, exploit DB, you're using at your own risk. Use a virtual machine because if you mess up or if a virus or something gets on your virtual machine, you can delete it and create another one, as opposed to doing this on your um, operating system, because then if you get a virus, depending on how bad it is, you have to reinstall the operating system. So that's just my soapbox. Do these things in a virtual machine. That is why I'm using the attack box on TryHackMe. But if I didn't have that, I probably would use like Kali Linux. But do all of this in a virtual machine. That way, if you mess up, you could delete it and create a new one. Okay. Enough of my soapbox. So I'm going to download and let's see where it's saved. Okay, it's saved in the root folder because we're root on this machine. Okay, now I am actually going to copy this file to the desktop. So if I go to the desktop, I see this file. Okay, so let's see Python 3.504. Okay, it's saying, okay, you need to provide the URL. The URL in this case will be my IP address 10.10.45.145. Okay. It looks like it's connected. I'm going to assume this is a Linux box. So I'm going to say ls. Okay. And it is a Linux box because it listed everything. Now, we can do another command, pwd, and that will print where we are. So we're in the var www html. So let's start going up the directory, and we're going to do that by doing the two dots, which says, hey, um, go up to the parent directory. So the directory before that. Next, I'm going to use a semicolon to end this command, and I'm going to do a second command of print working directory. So it's going to show us where we are. And then I'm going to say ls-la, which is a long listing, and show everything, including hidden files. And in Linux, hidden files start with the period. Okay, so we are in, we're at the top of the directory because we see that here, and it printed. So this is what that folder looks like. So now I'm going to say home because I want to see what user is on this server. Okay, so there's www-data. So now if I say home www-data, we see the flag. Okay, so if I say cat to open flag.txt, we see it. So it is 6470E 394CB F6DAB 6A91682CC 8585059B. Okay, great. Okay, now we need to find root.txt. Okay, so let's go back here. So this is like the getting started. And when you are installing a content management system or any service, this getting started should be removed. Okay? So, and it looks like, oh, okay. It looks like we could have logged in with admin. Let's see. Admin. Yep. We're in. Okay. So we could have just done admin to get in. Okay. So I'm going to close this because I'm going to look for root. Okay. So remember here, this fuel application config database.php includes a username and password. Okay. Now, this says remote code execution. So what does that mean? Remote code execution allows you to enter commands on a server, a remote server. So for instance, we're connected to the 10.10.45.145 server, and we're executing commands on that server. But as you can see, we got to enter the commands one by one. We need a better way. And what is that? Remote shell. So what is a remote shell? A remote shell is where we can pass in our IP address in a specific port. We could create a tunnel with with a specific port, and then we could have our computer connect to that, and have our computer connect to it, for this 10.10.45.145 server. So essentially, we're going to create a file to where we're going to connect to this 10.10.45.145 remotely, to where I don't have to enter these commands one by one. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to use netcat NVLP. So this is verbose listening, and we're going to pass in a port of 3333. And again, that's, you want to pass in a port that's not currently in use. So we can't use 80 because 80 is already in use for HTTP. So you want to use like not use ports, so like 333, 111, 1212, things of that nature. Okay. Now, let me go back and I'm going to go to Google, and now I'm going to say remote code, remote shell one liner. Okay. So this page provides one liners to do uh, a shell, a remote shell. So I have NCAT. So let's see if I can use this. Let me make this smaller. That didn't work. Okay. So now I'm going to go here. I'm going to say NCAT dash E is execute. So it's saying, hey, create a shell. And we're going to pass in our IP address, which is here. 10.10.111.5, port 333, because that's what we have here. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try the second one. F make FIFO temp f cat. Okay, and we see that this is hanging. What do you know? It worked. So now if we do a ls, we see the same as if we're running the commands. So we see we're in var www html. And if I say, who am I? I'm www dot hyphen data. Okay. So remember, fuel application config database.php. So I'm going to say ls fuel ls la application ls. Okay, let me make sure I'm doing this. Config. Okay, the database.php. So we have a default localhost root. Me is the password. That is very secure, super secure. It's not secure. So we found the root password. It was here. Okay, so that's why I'm saying files like this need to be removed. As soon as you install software, this getting started page needs to be removed because it's giving the keys to the kingdom. Okay, so what do we do next? If we say su for switch user and we say root, su must be run from a terminal. Okay, so okay, no TTY present. Okay, so let's go to Google and we're gonna say no TTY present for a reverse shell. Okay, So we don't have everything. So we have a reverse shell, but it's not giving us everything due to the type of shell that we have. So let's use Python to create a pseudo terminal. Okay. So whenever you are presented with the TTY, I always use this Python script to see if that works. And if it doesn't, then you move to the SOCAT and things of that nature. So we're going to say Python C import pty pty.spawn, and we're going to open a shell. Okay, so that worked because you see now we see the user www hyphen data, and so that has changed. Now I'm gonna say su root, and it's asking for the password me. Now I'm root. So again, that databases file gave us everything that we needed to know because there was a default user of root and the password was there. Okay, so now I'm a cd to the root directory, which again is only the root user or the administrator can access this directory. I'm gonna do a ls dot hyphen la long listing show hidden files that start with the period, and now I'm going to say cat.root.txt to open, and we have the root flag. So that is B9BBCB 33E11B80BE 759C4E844862482D. Okay, that was it. We solved the room. Okay, so this was a fun room. There was only one service open 80, which was HTTP, but from that we got a lot of information. We did the directory listing to find hidden directories and hidden files. We saw that there was a home directory, the robots.txt. We saw the fuel directory, and from there we went to fuel, and we was presented with the login page. Login page really didn't do anything for us. So we went to 10.1045 145, and we saw this getting started, which again had the keys to the kingdom. So it told us, hey, when you install the database, if you go to this database.php, it includes your host name, username, and password. So I figured at some point we were going to need that file because it was going to be a username and password, and I figured it was going to be the root username and password that was going to be stored in that file. Okay. Knowing this is using Fuel CMS. CMS is a content management system, version 1.4. We went to exploit DB. We tried to look for it in Searchsploit. It wasn't there. So we downloaded it. And as I said before, make sure you're doing these things in a virtual machine and not your actual personal laptop or desktop. Because if you download this file and it doesn't do what it says, you're putting your computer at risk. If you do this inside of a virtual machine, you can download it. It can wreak havoc on your virtual machine. You can delete it and then create a new virtual machine. So when you're doing security things, you want to have it quarantined in a separate environment, separate container, separate VM. So we downloaded the exploit, then we actually executed the exploit with passing in the URL 10.10.45 145, and then I guess it was a Linux server, so I did an ls and it worked because it showed me the listing. Pretty pwd print working directory showed me the var www html. Then I started going up to the root directory to see what folders were there, print the directory, and then a long listing. And from there, I went to the home directory because that lists what users are on that server. So we had www-data, went there, saw flag.txt, opened that, got the flag. Next, it was okay, I needed to create a remote shell because I'm entering these commands one by one. That's too slow. So I tried the netcat execute shell with our IP address from TryHackMe 10.10.111.5, and then the port recreated 333 on netcat. That didn't work. So then I tried the second one. That worked because it's hanging. You see here, it's hanging, and it actually created our shell here. So it says, hey, connection from 10.10.45.145, which is our which is the box that we're working on, is saying, hey, connection received. We're listening and you called us on our port 333, so we're going to make this connection. So now with this remote shell, we're inside this box on 10.10.45.145, and now I don't need to enter the command from the exploit file. I have a shell, so I can just enter the commands here. And as you can see, I did that. I did the ls, print working directory, ls again. And then as you see, it goes a lot faster because I don't have to enter a new command and all of the things. So from there, I remember it's like, wait, that config database.php file has a user. So scrolling down, we see a default, root, and then the name me as the password. So from there, I tried to switch user to root, and it's like must be run from a terminal. We don't have a terminal yet. So then I said sudo root, and then it's like no TTY is present. So going to Google, I usually try the Python one first before I move on to the others. And so we did the Python to create a shell. That worked because now we see the user www-data, and we actually see the print working directory. So that worked. So then I said switch user to root, and it says what's the password? Password is me, where we got from the database.php. That worked because now we went from www to root. So then we changed to the root directory, did a listing, saw root.txt, open that file, put in the root.txt. So again, this room was fun. Even though we had one service and port open, it still had a lot of goodies. And I hope you learned something in this video. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.